guys? So Tess and I got our hands on a 10 gallon. We're gonna go ahead and aquascape it today. It's just a little display tank. You know, we might have a little bit of breeding going on, but just in case you guys are curious how we set up our tanks, you can follow along with me. Alrighty, so the first thing we have to do, guys, we have our tank. It's as washed out as we can get it. It's where we're setting it up at, so we just gotta get gravel in it first. For gravel today, we're gonna be using this right here. It's already mixed and put together. It's gonna be black diamond sand with some finer or larger rocks that we have mixed in it. Just kind of look a little bit natural. This is what we have in most of our tanks. So we're just gonna stick with that. So now that we have our substrate in the tank, we're gonna need to go ahead and smooth it out and kind of get it situated how we want to set it up. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna spread it all out, and I'm gonna have it a little bit thinner in the front and then thicker sand in the back. That way we can put more of the stems and all the plants towards the back of the tank and leave the front kind of open for the fish to swim around in. Okay, so now that we have the gravel in the tank, we're gonna be putting the rocks in. Okay, so the rocks we're using today are gonna be Firestone. So they're very similar to Oko stone, very porous. They have some holes in there that the shrimp can swim through. And we're gonna be using that. It's gonna help a lot with the beneficial bacteria and to give the shrimp a place to hide. So we're gonna start putting those back in, and we're just gonna kind of move them around until we think that they're in a good spot and they look good to our eye. I've fiddled around with the rocks in here. I've added a piece of wood, and I think it looks pretty good. Kind of got a nice open area for them to swim here. We got some nice gaps in the back to where we can plant some taller plants. Some shorter plants can go in these little areas, and we can stick some Anubias down in the shade. I think we're good. The next step is we have to pick out some plants, which I've already done. And we have a nice selection of plants here that I've picked out of some of the other tanks. So we have some Anubias, some more Anubias. We have some oriental ferns, and I don't even know what this is, but the roots on it are insane. So we're gonna go ahead and get these planted, and I'll check back in with you then. Okay, so we've gotten all the plants in. I did taller plants towards the back, shorter plants towards the front, and then I also kind of tried to balance it out. So if you see, I have a bushy plant right here, another bushy one over here, and we got the same stem in both corners, as well as some taller, what are they called? I'm blanking out on what it's called, but some taller plants on the side that are going to grow up and spread out. You know, we have some Anubiases here and a crypt, and I think this will do good. I think it'll grow out. Now the next thing we have to do is fill it up, and if anything floats, we're gonna have to put it back in. I know the wood won't float because that's already been submerged, but I'm worried about the plants, seeing if they're gonna float or not. So let's fill it up and see what happens. One more thing I almost forgot. We're gonna go ahead and put some plastic wrap in, and that's gonna help us so that when we fill up the tank, we're gonna pour it onto the plastic wrap and it's not gonna disturb the substrate as much. So it shouldn't cloudy up the tank as much, but if we need to do a water change and get it clear, we're gonna go ahead and do that then. Okay, so we got it filled up most of the way. We might have to top it off a little bit more, but there's a couple things that are floating at the top. We just filled the gravel up. It hasn't been used in a while, so there's a couple snail shells and everything that are floating. What we're gonna do is we're just gonna take a net right off the top and just skim everything off. Try and get as much of this dead stuff off as we can. So I think that's as good as I'm gonna be able to get it right now. Next thing is to put the filter and the light on top of it. Okay, so we've got the tank filled up, we've got the light on it, and we have the filter on the back on it. We even went ahead and put a little thermometer in there, that way we can keep track of the temperature. We don't need a heater in this tank because the room's heated, so it's gonna stay 72 in here pretty much year round unless it gets hotter than that. But one thing we do need to do, we were adding it along the way, but it's not gonna hurt. We need to go ahead and dechlorinate it because we do have a little bit of chlorine in our water, so we're gonna use some prime. Just go ahead and dose that. Like I said, we've been adding it as we've been filling it up, but it's not going to hurt just to add a little bit extra in there. And then another thing is quick start. If you don't have this, I highly recommend getting it. This is going to allow you to add fish instantly, basically instantly cycling your tank. It's pretty much just live beneficial bacteria. Whoops. Gonna have to shake it up. A lot of people forget to do that. I'm gonna shake it up, and then for 10 gallons, it's just 1 capful. So, go, whoops. 1 capful in there. And within about an hour, that should be fully cleared up and cycled now. That beneficial bacteria in there, and should be able to add fish pretty much whenever we want. We're not gonna add the fish today because we do have an auction we're going to tomorrow. So hopefully we can get some new fish and add them in there tomorrow. But if we do, we'll definitely come back with an update and we'll update you guys on that. So it is the next day and the tank has cleared up really well. It's crystal clear. You can see all the plants are still where we put them. Everything looks really good. So what we're gonna do next is, we just got back from the auction. We did get some fish to put in this tank. We got some super dragon guppies. We got a pair of them, so we're gonna go ahead and get them acclimated, sink the bag in, let it sit for 20-30 minutes, and then I'll come back with you again when we put the fish in. So now that the guppies have been sitting in there for about 30 or so minutes, I'm gonna go ahead and cut the bag, pour the water into this bucket down here, and I have the net ready here. So I don't want to add that water into my tank because it could obviously screw it up, or add any bad microorganisms or bacteria in the tank. Don't want to get any algae, fungus, or any scuds, anything like that. So we're gonna go ahead and do that now. I'll show you, and you can see them swimming around. And they're going in 3, 2, 1. So there is a little bit of moss that went in there, but honestly that's fine. I'm gonna leave that and that'll grow out. But you can see they're nice and happy. They're already swimming around. You got the female, and then the male over there. He's got a huge, nice tail. They're healthy, happy, and just loving it in there. So as you guys can tell, the tank was super easy to set up. It didn't take much work at all. All we kind of did was just throw a couple of things in there, some plants, some rocks, wood, and substrate. You get the right thing and it looks good. And then we just toss in a couple of fish. And I think there is a snail actually that we tossed in there too. I forgot to mention that. But this is the tank now, and we're going to come back in a couple weeks, maybe about a month, and we'll update you guys on what it looks like then.
I'ma flop like a fish. I'ma flop like a fish. Flop on fish. Go ahead and flop on.